Hi, the purpose of this video is to show you the difference between a whole step and a half step at the piano keyboard. Check out my piano keyboard. It's designed. We call this the base of the keyboard. We call this the bottom. When you sit at the keyboard to play, the bottom faces you and the base is farther away from you. When you're deciding, is my step a whole step or a half step, we don't look at the bottom of the keyboard, we look at the base, where both white keys and black keys come into contact with the console. You should by now already know your letter names of the keys. The white key to the left of the group of two black keys is C, and then we go up the music alphabet, C, D, E, F, G. When we get to G, we start over with A, B, and so on and so forth. You will notice there are black keys situated between C and D, between D and E, between F and G, between G and A, and between A and B. Notice that there is no black key between E and F. And if we would keep this keyboard going, you would also notice that there is no black key between B and C. And then this keyboard can go on for several registers in both directions. And of course there would be black keys between F and G, G and A and B. However, there would not be one here, because the next key would be E. And I can keep going this way with D, E, and F. Sorry for the sloppy writing. So when we're going to decide, is it a whole step or is it a half step, we have to look at the base, not the bottom, the base of the keyboard. If there are two keys that are right next to each other, for example, D and D sharp, or we could call this D and E flat, we say that they are a half step apart because they are right next to each other at the base of the keyboard. How about C and D? Would they be a half step? No, they would not, because there is another key in between the C key and the D key. That key is known as either C sharp or D flat. When there is one key in between the two keys you're looking at the base of the keyboard, we call that a whole step. So now that you have that knowledge about the base of the keyboard, you can figure out whole steps and half steps between any two pitches. For example, let's take a B here. Whoops, I'm losing my stylus. Okay, let's say we wanted to find a half step down from B. All we would do is go to the base of the keyboard and go to the very next key. So a half step from B down would be either B flat or A sharp. If we say this key as B flat, if we use the same letter for both keys, that's called a chromatic half step. You can either show it with a CHS, or more commonly it's called a chromatic semitone, CST. I could also call this key A sharp. When I say that my half step down is B to A sharp, we say that that is a diatonic half step, or more commonly, a diatonic semitone. Half steps and semitones are the same thing. Another name for a whole step is just the word tone. Tone, whole step, same thing. Semitone, half step, same thing. So let's find our whole step down from B. So we go to the bass. Now instead of going to the key next to it, we skip that key and go one more key. So the whole step down from B is A. Half step, whole step. Now let's go whole step up from B. Actually, let's start with a half step. Oh, check this out. There is no black key between B and C. So the very next key to B at the base of the keyboard is C. So our half step up from B is C. To say it diatonically, we would call that note C. To say it chromatically, we could call that note B sharp. So the diatonic half step up from B is C. The chromatic half step up from B is B sharp. Notice the chromatic half steps and chromatic half steps always have the same letter name. The diatonic half steps always have different letter names. So that's the half step. Now let's find our whole step from B. Instead of going to the next note, we skip one more. We go to the key next to the key that's next to B. That note right there is C sharp. So C was the diatonic semitone or diatonic half step. B was the chromatic semitone. And then C sharp is the whole step. Ladies and gentlemen, that is how you find whole steps and half steps on the keyboard and in music in general.